Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Good.
I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm gonna get it at that one point. Welcome, guys, Box Office Bingers. This is episode 179. For those who you are just listening, they're just listening to the music. Like, I don't know what's going on. But if you're watching on YouTube, you see, we're having fun. We are reviewing Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Give us the deets, Matt.
Oh, the details. Well, it is starring of really the one person that you go see Mission Impossible for is Tom Cruise. Why, you may ask? Well, first of all, it's Tom Cruise and he's a Hollywood legend and star, but also because for every Mission Impossible movie, or in this case, every movie he's done in the last couple of years, he says, what new way can I get the studio in trouble for and I'd be one of the biggest liabilities ever? Yeah. Because I'm going to try to do this death-defying stunt and push the boundaries on what I'm able to do at the age of, I don't know, what is he, 60?
I believe he's 63.
63?
He was born in 1960. I'm sorry, I was incorrect. He was born in 61. He was born in 1962. He is 61.
So. Is 61. Okay, yeah. But still, a 61-year-old man doing all those crazy stunts is it's kind of crazy, but also it's a lot of fun to watch on the screen as well. So I'm fine with that. But also starring Haley Atwell, Ving Rhames. Is that Ving Rhames? There you go. Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Is Morris, Palm Clementif,
Isaiah Morales, Palm Clementif, Henry Sersney. Yep. Cerny. I'm sure I am Shea Wigham and Greg Tarzan Davis.
Nailed it. Every one of them.
I'm so glad. We got it. We made it work.
Written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie. He is the writer-director behind Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible: Fallout, and Jack Reacher, all starring Tom Cruise. And he's also the writer behind The Usual Suspects, Valkyrie, also starring Tom Cruise, Jack the Giant Slayer, which I did not know he wrote, Edge of Tomorrow, The Mummy, and Top Gun Maverick. He was one of the writers behind Top Gun Maverick. So let's just say that between Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, they have a great relationship. And also, he is responsible for the better two of the Mission Impossible films. Rogue Nation and Fallout were, like, when Christopher McQuarrie hopped on board, that franchise just really just came together, and it was like amazing after that.
Oh, I agree, because it's, they consider the earlier ones to be like not that great. But I don't know. I guess we'll see how we feel about this one.
Yes.
Later on.
And so later on, your mission, if you choose to accept it, of course.
I see. I like that. There you go.
Thank you. But we're going to be talking about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 later in the episode. But first, we're going to be diving in to some entertainment news. And boy, Ernesto, we got some entertainment news for sure. It's kind of the writing on the wall, so to speak, that if you have been living under the rock and you might not have been paying attention, but if you were listening to this show, specifically last week's episode, when we had Nick DeLorenzo on talking about the writer's strike, the big news that has been sweeping Hollywood this week is that the SAG-AFTRA, which stands for the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, announced last week that they will be joining the Writers Guild and are going on strike against the film and TV companies. This marks only the second time in Hollywood histories that actors have joined writers on the picket lines. The last time SAG-AFTRA was on strike was in 1980. So this had happened, 33 years ago? Which is or is it? No, that's more. 43.
Yeah.
43 years
43.
ago. Yeah, 43 years ago. That's insane. Duncan Crabtree, Ireland. I didn't say 3 random names. That is someone's name. He is the chief negotiator of SAG-AFTRA. Said during a press conference, union members should withhold their labor until a fair contract can be achieved. They have left us with no alternative. The strike began midnight on Friday, July 14th. So the time of recording, it was a week ago. According to the guidelines, SAG members will not be able to attend premieres, do interviews for completed work, go to award shows, attend film festivals, or even promote projects on social media while the strike is in effect. Attending conventions such as Comic-Con to promote any past or present work made under SAG contract is also not allowed. So a lot of people, with Comic-Con coming in this week, a lot of actors had to back out on their appearance at Comic-Con, which was, the studios were already not going to be there because of the writer's strike. Mm-hmm. And so now Comic-Con is kind of just like, kind of bare. Like, what are we gonna, what do you do when your movie studios and your celebrities are not there? And I was listening to another podcast, and they said, well, we're going to go back to what it was supposed to be all along. It's about comic books. It's a convention about comic books. It's
True.
The things that are what it started with. And a lot of video games are probably going to be promoting their stuff as well over the weekend for Comic-Con. So interesting time at the con right now. Where did I leave off? The SAG president Fran Drescher, who played the nanny many years ago, said in the same press conference that we are being victimized by a very greedy enterprise. At some point, you have to say no. We're not going to take this anymore. Much like the Writers Guild, the Screen Actors Guild are fighting for the same thing. With streaming and artificial intelligence upending the entertainment industry's business model, the SAG contracts have not been updated to reflect those advancements. Ernesto, we can't say we didn't see this coming.
No, and I mean, they want to fight for what they think is right. So, what exactly are they fighting for? So here are, they want 2% of the revenue that each show generates for a streaming platform to be paid to performers. They want pay increases, better pension and health contributions. They want performers to be, this is probably the big one. They want performers to be protected by artificial intelligence. They don't want to seek to ban AI, but they want to make sure that any use of performers' likeness to generate a new performance is done with compensation and consent. And that was a big thing. I remember I think I had sent it, I don't remember if we talked about it, but I sent it to you, that they wanted for background actors to scan them one time and pay them a one-time fee and then use their likeness in perpetuity, which is literally forever is what that word means.
And you know what's crazy about that? Because they were using the word background actors. Yeah. How many celebrities now started as background actors?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
So
exactly.
what's to say that? So what if one of those quote unquote background actors became famous and now, you already signed a contract that we can have your likeness for perpetuity if you become a star, and that's probably them again. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's not. Okay.
Come on, that's not a fair deal.
Yeah, that's obviously that's definitely not okay. They also this is one I actually didn't realize. They want to limit the use of self-taped auditions, but have become the industry standard in the wake of the pandemic. So just one of those things from the pandemic that happened, but they never regressed back. But that kind of makes it would seem like not as much as a personable experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because, like, how can as always, most things you kind of want to prefer them in persons because you can see you kind of see more of them instead of like I feel like you're doing more work when you're trying to do it online. I'm sure there's more things that they have to do for these self-taped auditions, and also like it's not in the moment. You're probably practicing 1,000 times. You can choose which version you want to send. I think it's better if you're performing. That's what they do. They're performers. Instead of performing it to a camera, which most actors may not be comfortable with, you're performing in front of, what do you call it? A group of people.
Yeah.
That, they technically are being judged. But yeah, I totally understand why you wouldn't want to do it. You would rather do it in person, which makes sense to me.
Yeah. And lastly, they want to represent background actors from all across the U.S., not just actors who reside in a handful of places like New York and L.A., as well as represent performance capture actors, which I think is a big thing because then that almost opens the market. It does seem like it's centralized to that part of the world. Like, if you want to make it at all, that's where you have to go. Well, why?
Yeah.
I mean, we're starting to see like Atlanta starting to bloom, but maybe that needs to spread throughout the whole country. Like, who's to say you can't have a big production studio in the Midwest or somewhere else? Like,
Right.
it does need to be. We do need to see more of it spread out. Like, it doesn't need to be, especially with the internet and streaming and just kind of the world. Like, you almost don't need it to be just centralized in LA like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, LA is the place, that's where Hollywood is, that's where movies being made. But to your point, Atlanta has been booming, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of movies are made over there. Marvel does a lot of productions over there as well. The Walking Dead for the longest time had basically residence there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other productions that have been going there too. So, yeah, and also even going back to the first thing you said, they want 2% of revenue from each show generated from streaming platforms to be paid to the performers. I'm sure they're not saying all performers should get 2%, but probably the big ones, your headliners, your leads should be getting some sort of revenue behind it. And I think honestly, aside like for the actors, AI is probably the big one they want protected. But I would like to assume that the studios have a big problem with that 2% because they're already losing money.
Yeah. There are,
in that.
well, that's been the clear case from the beginning is that there's no money in streaming. Like it's basically like, I don't know. Like, I don't like, we hear all these big profits from Netflix and from what they make off of Stranger Things and these big box shows or these big box or these big hit movies. But then where is that money going? So I mean, a lot of it once you're making your money back, like you have to pay yourself back. But once you hit that point, like then how does it get distributed out? Like, yeah, you pay them, but I don't know. It's a messy situation because then it's like, well, when we made the contract for this and we were okay with this, but I guess this is them saying that they want more, like as the baseline. Everything else that comes in your individual negotiation, that's on you. But as far as an industry standard, this is the basic of what we want.
And I feel like that because actors were getting paid for syndication, they were getting paid for anything that happened on cable. That was already written.
Yeah.
And you can't expect that for that to go away when streaming is now the place where you make movies and TV. As specifically TV. There's a lot of TV content going into streaming. So you're telling me that so when cable was, when you had all those shows and you're paying your actors, you could afford it then, probably because they were getting all those ads. The ads between episodes and stuff like that. So that's probably where a lot of the revenue is coming from, and they're afford to pay some actors. With streaming, there are no ads. Now a lot of the streaming services are hopping on the ad train, so you can sign up for a service to get ads. But even so, you made it work for cable television back in the day. You can make it work for streaming now. I mean,
what it is that the model that they have is outdated, and we live in a different world now. We have the internet now, but these companies, if they want to make these big profits and make these big projects, then they need to adapt to the landscape. And and I think even SAG-AFTRA is even saying that they're willing to, because they're not, like they're saying, like they listed, they're not banning. They don't want to ban AI because that would be like you can't. They understand. Like obviously you understand it. It's a part of the industry.
Yeah.
Now. Like it's you. The cat's out of the box, so it's not going back in.
Right. Yeah. Have you seen The Flash and Indiana Jones? AI is there.
Yeah.
as far as at least motion capture, but even important, like they want motion capture actors to be represented in the SAG, which is currently isn't. I guess they're not allowed to. That's a pretty big one.
And you
motion
think they would?
Being...
Well, especially because because you think about the actors when they do motion capture work. If it's all motion capture, then they're not covered for that work, and this could be a huge project.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, especially I'm sure there's more motion capture in video games, but I'm sure that's creeping in a lot into movies nowadays.
So you would think Andy Serkis in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
he didn't play himself. Yeah. That was motion capture.
But in this case, he
Planet
did
of the Apes.
he Planet of the Apes. Yeah, but he's also an actor, so I guess he kind of falls. It's like you can be an actor and be a motion capture and still be covered, but you can't be a performance capture artist. So like maybe not the leads that are probably not, but you can't, but you're not in SAG. I feel like like you said, there's a gray area somewhere in there as well. But yeah, so in response to all of this, the Allegiance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents the studios, argues it presented a deal that offered historic pay and residual increases, subsequently higher caps on pension and health contributions, audition protections, shortened series option periods, and groundbreaking AI proposals that protect actors' digital likeness for SAG members. They say that, but clearly they didn't because they didn't come up with an agreement.
Exactly.
That's kind of like no, we gave them that. Like, well, if you did, then they wouldn't be on strike right now. So clearly, whether you felt like it was reasonable or not, they didn't. You guys did not come to an agreement. Disney CEO Bob Iger has been getting a lot of lines over his remarks regarding the strike, saying in an interview that the writers and actors unions have unrealistic expectations with the strike and are only adding to the industry distributions by taking such action. But yeah, sorry, industry disruptions. I'm sorry, Bob Iger. Is the actors and writers going on strike disrupting your business? I think that's the point of a strike.
And then it's like maybe take a step back. It's like, where are we doing this interview? On your private ranch?
I think you're doing just fine. And I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't think Bob Iger, you should not be making those remarks like that. Disney is still on thin ice right now. You're trying to recover. You're trying to recover from your losses that you've had over the pandemic and kind of be a better role model than Bob Chapek was. I think you got to represent yourself just a little bit differently because people were calling you a saint back when you came back in power. Now you're looking at, I don't know, Bob Iger, maybe hold back on your comments just a little bit.
He's just really mad. Like he's like, I'm still cleaning up all this mess. I don't have time for this other stuff. Okay, I'm still trying to deal with this, and y'all coming at me with this.
Yeah. That's pretty much what he's saying. He's like, guys, come on, I'm just trying.
All right, I'm trying to fix it.
Well, hey, guess what? That's life, man.
You're a CEO. That's what you make the literal big bucks to do.
You are literally getting paid millions to solve these problems. So figure it out.
Nobody feels bad for your worries.
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of people, on a side note, are kind of giving flack to the Directors Guild because they were able to make an agreement with the studios fairly quickly. I don't know what the terms were to that agreement. I'm not sure if those were released or not. But I know that they are good to go. Between the studios and the directors are all good. But guess what? That could be great and all, but you can't make a movie without writers and actors. So the directors could be all great to make a movie, but they can't. And in addition to the movies and TV shows that were shut down from the production of the Writers Guild, in addition to all those we've already listed in previous episodes, jumping on the train now is Deadpool 3, Beetlejuice 2, Gladiator 2, the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie, a Minecraft movie, which I had no idea was in production, Mortal Kombat 2, Venom 3, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 have all shut down production.
I also saw that Wicked was like, I think they were a week. I just saw online like right before we started
Yeah.
recording. I think they were a week away from completely wrapping production, and they had to
Yeah.
shut down because of the strike. Like they're literally almost done.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure Deadpool was well on this way. Last week we talked about the images that they posted with Hugh Jackman in the suit, and so obviously they're well on their way. But yeah, I mean, but also this is the point. And then also because all these are strike down, there's even conversations right now that Warner Brothers might be pushing back some of their releases. Right now
Yeah,
they
I
have
saw
three
Dune.
Dune, Aquaman 2, and The Color Purple are all coming out this winter, and they're contemplating on pushing back those releases because of the writer's strike. Because they're probably going to benefit if the writers and the actors strike, but they're probably going to benefit from having your actors promote the movie. And if they can't do that, then you're putting your marketing budget elsewhere that maybe they don't feel that's going to be feasible, or they feel like it's not going to work. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you stick to your guns on the release dates, or do you push it back because of the like, they're not doing it for the benefit of their actors or the writers. They're doing it for the benefit of
Yeah.
themselves. But I don't know, where do you kind of lie on that? Do you think they should hold their ground on the release date, or push it back to have a proper marketing campaign?
I think they should stick to the original release dates. Because then, fine, you want to stick to the strike? See, because then they can see how important it is to really which is why they want to push it back, because they already understand how important it is. Because without marketing, it's going to be nothing. I mean,
Right.
look at the marketing for Barbie and Oppenheimer, and how, and even
incredible.
those two movies. Like everybody's going to go see this movie just because of the massive marketing campaign there was behind both of these films.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the social media people were all on board with Barbenheimer, and
Yeah.
they weren't even thinking about that. Now other
Yeah.
people are promoting them for them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy that like there's so many self promotions they didn't even have to do, like
Yeah,
because of that.
It became like a meme war. It is just like all these different, like just the whole dichotomy of the whole thing. Like literally, these two studio heads were like, let's release both these movies together, and then we'll make it a Barbenheimer, and then we'll just we asked the marketing team to just go crazy with Barbenheimer, and
Yeah.
that's literally what happened.
You think that the studios work together on this?
For marketing, I don't see why not. It seems like too perfect of a marketing campaign for it not to be that.
I think people were just on board with the idea that Barbie and Oppenheimer are two completely opposites, and the movies that for some reason people are losing their minds over that they're releasing on the same date, and then they were just like, we have to, like, this has to be a thing, and people just ran with it, and other people are doing the marketing for them. They're getting so much free marketing off of these two movies that they are both benefiting, which in my opinion, I think Barbie's benefiting more than Oppenheimer in this particular venture. A lot of people are probably going dressing very nicely to go, like very, very preppy, very pink in order to go see Barbie. But also, as we discussed in a couple of episodes back, that AMC said that, what was it, 20,000 AMC stub
40.
members?
40,000. Yeah.
40,000. AMC stub members had signed up for a double feature that day, or over the weekend. So
I don't have time. Like, I just don't have time like that.
But at the very least, they're planning on seeing both movies over the weekend. Maybe not in the same day, but like, yeah, it's just kind of crazy what this is becoming. And who thought that this would have been the movie of the summer? Out of all the movies that come out, this is the one that's getting the most headlines. So I'm very curious on the box office numbers when that does get released. But anyway, going back to the writers, the SAG strike. It's in a way, as a fan of movies and TV, this sucks to see this, because we want to see more content out. We want to enjoy the medium that we enjoy, and right now it's going to be on pause, and we're going to see the effects of that in the coming months. We're going to see a lot of documentaries and reality TV shows come out. Maybe they might be pushing back some of these movies, and then what? Like this is also affecting the movie theaters themselves. If no big movies are coming out, they're going to be suffering because no one's going to go watch the movies. And I mean, this is going to be a great time for us to catch up on a few things, because nothing's going to be made. I feel like like very similar to the pandemic. We might be getting stuff now, but come maybe the winter and early 2024, it's gonna be bare.
Winter is coming.
Yeah.
Which is, but you know what? There's a lot of other stuff that can be consumed. What we are going to see, and maybe this is what the studio could be banking on this too, is we're going to rely on some of the rewatchability of all their streaming stuff, since there's not so much new stuff coming out.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's sad to see, but also good for SAG and good for the writer's strike to kind of sticking with their guns and like, hey, they're not going to go anymore until they're getting compensated. I know in the face of the studio, they're like, fine, go on strike. You're just not getting paid. That's to your dismay. Like you're causing yourself your own problem. But to this point, this is worth it for some people. And then I know there's a lot of fundraisers going out to protect, or it's like to kind of fund some of these actors who are not making millions of dollars and, have other businesses to go off of. Like if their sole thing is just acting, it could be rough for a moment to try to find work, but it's all for a good cause.
Yeah,
so hopefully they can come up with an agreement. Yeah. So kind of a hard transition in a way. The Television Academy has announced the nominees for the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards. I don't know if this is even going to happen.
What they're going to present, and it's going to be nobody in the. It's not going to. Well, they won't do a live event. They would just cancel the live event. They might just issue them and just release the awards and tell people who won.
Yeah, and also September 18th. There's a good possibility that they don't come up with an agreement in July in 2 months. Yeah. So. This could be, again, very similar to how the Golden Globes operated when they didn't have a live and they just like, hey, we're just going to go on YouTube and put out a graphic card and say you won. This could be the outcome of that. Or they might delay this. Who knows? But there's no way they're going to have an award show for television with no actors. Like, that's not going to happen. So we'll see if they actually go through with this or not, depending on where the Screen Actors Guild strike happens. But in the meantime, there's shows that have been nominated, and we'll go over the big three here. For outstanding drama series, we have Andor, Better Call Saul, The Crown, House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, Succession, The White Lotus, and Yellow Jackets. There's a lot of great shows in that I just listed.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard one because there's like 2 or 3 that I would really want to see win.
Yeah,
I'm down to. Oh man, but
yeah,
at least 4 of them.
We need another category that says like best outstanding first season or best outstanding new show, I should say, new drama series, because Andor, House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, they're all brand new shows, and they're all great. They're all great television. I feel like Better Call Saul should win it because it's been there every season and it has not won one. The Crown or Game of Thrones always takes it, or Succession always takes it. That's a hard one to see which one might take it, but that would be interesting to see who wins. But I think they picked a lot of great stuff, and I know we both love The White Lotus. I really enjoyed Andor. You enjoyed Better Call Saul. We both liked House of the Dragon and The Last of Us. Yellow Jackets has been up there, and The Crown is another one that's always sweeping. So it'll be interesting to see what wins.
That's going to be a really hard decision.
Yeah. For outstanding comedy series, we have Abbott Elementary, Barry, The Bear, Jury Duty, which was interesting. It's more of a reality comedy show, but it's there.
I hadn't seen it. David had seen it. He said it was really funny.
Another friend of mine said that was one of the funniest shows they've seen in a while. So maybe we're missing out.
I guess we are.
I think it's on Freevee, which is the Amazon free streaming network, which is what? That's getting nominated for best comedy? That's insane.
Jeff Bezos like, here, you can have another free service. Even though we have a paid one, I'll give you a free one too. I'll be in both markets.
And it's funny. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, throw whatever on there, and then he gets nominated. He's like, you see, crinkle.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're fine. The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Only Murderers in the Building, Ted Lasso, and Wednesday are all on there for Outstanding Comedy Series. Abbott Elementary won last year, so it could come back again. I feel like there's a strong contender for The Bear, though. The Bear, I haven't seen the newest season yet, but I'm ready for it. I'm gonna be watching it very soon.
Yeah, I think after we finish Yellowstone, that's what we're gonna watch.
Okay. Ted Lasso is also a big front runner because it's won the last few as well. And Miss Maisel has also been pretty strong in this category as well. Wednesday, I don't really see it as a comedy, but I guess it kind of is. But yeah, who knows if Wednesday is gonna kind of sweep that? But Barry ending its last season pretty well as well. So, and you said did you finish that?
No, that's a wife show, so I now have to wait.
Oh,
so I have to wait for her until we finish Yellowstone, and then we got to decide: are we gonna watch Barry or are we gonna watch The Bear? So,
okay. And then Outstanding Limited Series, we have Beef, Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, Daisy Jones and the Six. Fleischman is in trouble.
That's the one that I watched. I watched that earlier in the year.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I'm sorry, I don't know why you're there. I don't know what you're doing in that category.
Sure.
You gotta go away. Probably well made, but not outstanding. Yeah. I'll tell you that. Definitely a limited series. I feel like Dahmer and Beef are probably the two strong contenders in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of you really enjoyed Dahmer.
Yeah, well, enjoyed is an interesting choice of words. Fair. Like, it was well made. It was a well put together piece of art. Like,
okay, fair enough. And then I really enjoyed Beef. Beef was a great series that came out this year. But yeah, the winners of the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards will air on Fox on September 18th. Maybe
something will be there.
So, something will be on Fox on September 18th. Maybe not this. But yeah, I know a lot of there was a lot of other nominations with the actors. But if we're not gonna sit here all day and list them all, but they're all great. But yeah, so anyway, and the last piece of news related to casting: Superman Legacy writer, director, and DC Studios co-chief James Gunn is expanding the DC universe with 4 new actors joining the cast. He's bringing back Nathan Fillion from Firefly, Castle, and The Rookie. He also was in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Will play Guy Gardner Green Lantern, an obnoxious hulking mass of masculinity is what they describe him as. Isabel Merced, who famously played Dora in Dora and the Lost City of Gold, will play Hawkgirl, one of DC's oldest superheroes, who first appeared in 1940, known for wielding medieval weaponry like swords and maces. Edie Gathegi, who was in The Harder They Fall, which is, if you haven't seen that movie, it's really good. Will play Mr. Terrific, a brilliant inventor who is part of the Justice Society of America and has a rivalry with Batman, which may plant a future seed for the DCU. And lastly, Anthony Kerrigan will play Metamorpho.
Yeah.
A shifting mass of chemicals cursed by an ancient artifact. They will join David Cornsweet as Superman and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, which we previously talked about in the show. There's a lot more superheroes I thought was going to be in this movie, Ernesto.
Yeah, and I'm here for it because I think maybe they'll just appear and it's not going to... I trust James Gunn. He knows what to do with a large cast that are all A-listers. I mean, look what he did for Guardians. Like, that was an ensemble cast very similar to what this is going to be.
It sounds like he's already establishing a world with superheroes.
Yeah, we're jumping right in. We're jumping in. Just like you would in a comic book. You're not... Sometimes the first one you pick up is not always the origin story. It's like it's like you're smack dab in the middle, and then everything else is like It's like you read to a point and go, oh, they talk about this story. Let me go look at that. Like you go, it's almost like a back and forth type deal. But I'm here for it because we don't always need to see the origin story. I don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents die. I don't need to see the pearls hit the ground. Like I don't need to see Krypton blow up again. Like, so I trust in James Gunn. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, and also we're going with a younger Superman, as we know. So like, this is a younger Superman in a world of heroes and villains, and like this is clearly. I think he's setting this apart that this is not a Superman solo film. We're not starting small. We are introducing this world pretty big. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of Invincible. Where you have,
well, he said
like,
it's going to be hopeful, but
this,
it's not going. I don't think it's going to be that dark.
Yeah, sense of Invincible, where like there's so many superheroes out there already. Like there were so many characters that we met in that series in a short amount of time, while also he was going through this personal story with his father. But I just felt like that we were introduced to so many different characters in that show, and it was still very good. Like that they didn't like dilute itself by having more superheroes. So in this case, it's hopefully under James Gunn, this could be the case. Like, sure, we're going to add Green Lantern and Hawk Girl, but that's not going to ruin the story. This is what the story calls for. So I'm excited. I didn't realize a lot of superheroes are going to be in this. So 2 thumbs up for me there. But also anything that James Gunn's announced, I'm probably going to be happy about anyway.
Yeah,
so.
and Anthony Carrigan, he's from Barry. He's the actor who's bald. He was also in Bill and Ted as well. He played that robot thing in like the middle of the movie. I don't remember his name, but he was
that's
that guy.
Right. That's
that
right.
guy. He's hilarious. So he's another one. I really enjoy him as an actor. So I'm here for whatever he's doing.
Yeah, and I forgot what other movie. I mean, also Nathan Fillion.
Oh, of course.
Like
he's gonna be Guy Gardner.
Of course, he's gonna Guy Gardner. Amazing. And also, finally, bringing back Green Lantern. He knows. James Gunn is like, look, it's been a while since we've seen a Green Lantern. Let's bring him back on the big screen.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do it right.
Let's do it right. And also, yes, let's do it right. Also, one last thing, and this could be going back either to the writer's strike, but I found this very interesting, that Netflix killed off its non-ads plan. What is that? And so if you remember, back a while ago, Netflix basically introduced 3 different tiers. You had the ads plan, you had the no ads plan, and you had the 4K plan. Netflix all of a sudden took out the no ads plan, the middle one, the one that most people would probably have if they didn't want ads. So it would probably be about the $15 range. So you had the ads plan, which is about the 10. You had the no ads plan, that was 15, and you had the 4K plan, that was 20. They took away the $15. They took away the middle tier. So you either have to go with ads or 4K. That's interesting. And I think I was reading about that they were getting, well, first of all, which I found this interesting, they said they had gained 5.6 million subscribers with their new password sharing tactic.
Was it? I thought it was like close. I thought it was over 6.
It could be over 6.
So let's...
But they said Netflix more than 5 million members for its ad-supported plans, with 25% of new subscribers taking the package. So that's just that. But
6 million, yeah, just I guess near.
Well,
you're right. I think you're right. I think your number's probably more accurate.
Yeah,
because you said nearly 6 million.
Okay,
I heard 6 million.
Yeah,
but that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's crazy that that many people signed up for. Curious of whether that was going to happen or not, like with the whole password sharing, and it looks like that. All right, you caught me. I guess I'm signing up. But now I feel like we're getting more into the greed. Because we're like, all right, well, we gave you 3 options. Now we're only giving you 2. You're probably going to pay for something. If you don't want ads, you got to go all in. That's basically what we're seeing. And they said that more people were signing up for the. I guess in their way, and if you think about it, more people were signing up for the no ads, and they're also making more money off of the no ads. ads because I'm sorry, a lot of people signed up for ads, and they're also making the most money off of ads because of the ads. They're getting more of a profit from it, and they were probably getting a bigger buck for the 4K because of 4K. So I guess in theory, taking away the middle ground makes a lot of sense if they felt like they were getting the most bang for their buck if you either 4K or the ads plan. But they said that if you already have the no ads plan that's not 4K, they'll honor it until you change your plan. So they'll honor it if you already had it, but it's no longer an option if you're looking to subscribe to it. So I feel like this has a lot to do with a little bit of the strike, but also kind of just shows that, their hand on, them trying to make money, and also them not wanting to give the actors 2% of revenue on certain things because they're already still trying to make money as is. As we see it as, which Discovery and HBO Max turning into Max. We have Paramount Plus and Showtime turning into Paramount Plus with Showtime, and also the word that Disney Plus and Hulu might be combining as well. Another cost measuring effort to, spend less, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew this was going to happen. It's just eventually they all just gobble up, and it's just going to be like three or four, the three massive companies, or 3 or 4, however many. They're just going to each own a bunch of, they're going to own a bunch of used to be really big studios that they now own.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're going toward.
Yeah.
But yeah, there it is. That's all the entertainment I'll start over again. And there it is. That's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, if you want all the latest and breaking entertainment news, you can always find it on our social media channels, on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, our Facebook bingers, and our threads page at Box Office Bingers. So now we're going to move over to this fun segment we like to call What You Watching. So Ernesto, we'll start with you. What have you been watching?
So I haven't been watching really much of anything, just because I've had family in town and this and that. But there's one thing that I did see.
One thing?
One thing I did see.
I like the effect. It caused a drama. Like there's one thing I did see. But let me put me on full frame. I want to talk to the audience when I say this.
I also forgot. I forgot that it was still on you. So I mean, unless you just want to just stare at me a little.
Yeah.
Either way, I saw Sound of Freedom in theaters.
And okay, yeah.
That movie was fucking intense. That movie was crazy. Like, it tells the real life story of this superhero. Let me get his. I think his name is Tom. He plays Tim Ballard, a former government agent who played by Jim Caviezel. He was sent on a mission to Colombia to take over the sex trafficking ring, because they go into about like how horrible it is, how these little kids get captured and then they sell them to pedophiles. And what's crazy is that this movie was made 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was made in 2018. But they had roadblocks, and there were so many issues with the movie being released. And look what's the craziest part is the budget.
Yeah,
the budget is $14.5 million, and it has already made $104.6 million. How crazy is that? And they with little to no marketing. Yeah, we talk about Barbie marketing. You think about the Barbie and Oppenheimer marketing. This movie had no marketing, and it's already made over 10 times its budget, almost 10 times its budget.
So I haven't seen this movie, but going off exactly what you just said, like, I've been keeping up with the box office numbers as I do every week, and you can see that on our social media channels, Instagram at Box Office Scrimmage and Facebook at Box Office Scrimmage. But regardless, the box, to me, there was like a surprise when that came in number 3, Sound of Freedom, in its first week. I was like, oh, okay, this movie I never heard of, I just saw it as a religious movie that was about sex trafficking. That's the only thing I knew about it, and it came out on 4th of July weekend. And I was like, okay, wow, this came out, made number 3 in the box office, which surprised me even more. It made more money in its second week than it did in its first week. Because of positive word of mouth and it being one hell of a film apparently, and it then opened to number 2
I saw that
in the box office. It went from 3 to 2.
I saw that.
What?
Crazy.
So apparently, it sounds like it's that good.
It was a great movie. I mean, Jim Caviezel, he did a really really good job. Oh my gosh, like you can, like, what's great is that they didn't like glorify any kind of violence, or any kind of the like child like sex that was going on, but it was heavily implied. Like there's one scene where this pedophile has this little girl in the bed, and she's laying on the bed and she looks scared and he looks creepy, and then it cuts to outside the window and it's of him closing the blinds, and that's how that scene ends. So it's like you don't see it, but it's very heavily implied. And then the things that this man actually went through, like I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it, because if you don't know the story, I think the movie has a bigger impact if you see it without really knowing like what's going to happen. But if you know the story, like what he does to take out that sex trafficking ring, like such a creative way, and what they were especially for what they were able to achieve. And like they show the scene and it feels real, because at the end of the movie they had security cameras at this raid, and then you can see like how very similar the movie was to real life. And there was a lot of that.
Wow.
At the end of the movie they show like pictures of Tim Ballard and his family, and like they come the actor to real life. And what's wild is like in the beginning of the movie they showcase this family that's captured, and then the credits roll like for the start of the movie, and it's real life security footage of kids being abducted on the street.
Wow.
And then the movie ends, and you get this speech from Jim Caviezel where he talks about how the movie was made 5 years ago, and that they have little to no marketing, and they have like this QR code that if you have the means, you can pay it forward for somebody else. So it's a lot of self-promotion. So like if somebody else doesn't have the means, like we'll help, we can donate tickets so that people can go see it, because this is a movie that needs to be seen. And they go into the numbers about like how bad the sex trafficking is. It is worth the watch. It absolutely is.
This was in the movie. That after the movie was over,
the credits roll, and then it says as the credits are rolling, there's a little note that says special. I think it said special message or special note or something, and it counts down, and then there's credits are still rolling on the side, and then Jim Caviezel goes into the speech about everything.
Wow.
Really well done.
Okay, you sold me.
I mean, it was just a really good movie. Like I just was not like I walked out in tears. I was in tears watching this movie towards the end. Like you feel like they really, just the way it was shot, the way it was constructed, like you really feel for these families, and like I couldn't speak any higher of it. Like it was really well done. Really great movie. It's a terrible story because this is like shit that's really happening to people in our world, like that these little kids are for sale, like, you know, treating these little kids like they're for sale. Like, you know, slavery and trafficking is like the world's oldest profession, you know, like that's what we've been doing for human civilization forever. You know, it's a movie that deserves to be seen. Like there's a reason, like it's justified for the amount that it's been climbing in the box office. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and especially, and I'm curious of like, especially with everything that's happening, that's about to happen this weekend with Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm very curious of how that's going to fare into it, especially with Mission Impossible, you know, with those box office numbers. But I mean, it sounds like that it's still holding very strong, and the continuous positive word of mouth, it's what's really driving the marketing. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of speaking for itself. It's like, look how well we're doing in the box office. Look how well everyone's raving about this movie. That's the marketing right there with very little marketing budget. And lucky for them, it's working.
It's worth it.
Like you often hope that word of mouth would do well, but this one's just doing extraordinary for them, which is crazy. And I hope that a lot of people are sticking around to hear that message and maybe going ahead and donating. It could be doing a lot of good right now just for you watching this movie.
It floored me. I went to go see it and I was like, oh, I heard it'll be good. And I was just not ready for that movie to be as good as it was. And this was a Tuesday afternoon, and the theater was packed.
Really?
I would say at least 50%. It was packed for a Tuesday midday. I'll say that.
Put it that way.
And I wasn't at Disney Springs, so I wasn't even in the tourist area. I was at the Ultima AMC, which is more like locals.
Locals, yeah. Damn. All right, you sold me. I'm not sure if I'll make it to the theater and watch it, but I'll definitely watch it at some point.
Yeah, you've got to. It's worth it. It's definitely worth the watch.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
Besides Yellowstone. Yellowstone is as good as it is, but no, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I also have not been watching much, but we finished Platonic, which was the Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen series. And you know what's funny is that you said, and I feel like you said that we were talking about Friends from College and how much we enjoyed that show, and it ended too soon. And as I was doing some digging when I finished watching this show, the creators of playing people who made Friends from College, yes. And it's funny because Megan said, "Oh, this has very similar vibes to Friends from College," and I said, "Yeah, you're right, it kind of does." And that's because the creators it's behind the same thing.
Now I have to watch it.
It's really good. It's such a fun. It kind of very similar. Like the idea of Friends from College is like you can't. It kind of the idea of you can't really grow up in a way, or you're trying to move on, but the past is still there. Like in the sense of like you are at different points of your lives, and you're trying to rekindle something that was in the past. And that case was Friends from College. The stupid things you did in college, and now you're trying to be an adult, so to speak. But in this case, in this story is taking place of like, here are these friends that have been friends for forever, and they kind of stopped talking for a while, and then they reconnected due to whatever, and then now they think it's weird that they're spending so much. Like other people around them think it's weird that a man and a female are spending so much time together, but they're not cheating on their spouses. Like they're just generally, want to hang out with one another in an extensive amount of time. A lot of people think it's weird, but I guess in this case, they're like saying that why it's maybe not, because you have such a relationship that's so good, but it's not out of that you love each other, but not in a romantic way. It's, as the title suggests, it's platonic. So, and like even there was one moment where they said that, she was talking with her husband and was like, I don't know why you can't tell me certain things. And she's like, well, it's just maybe easier to tell it to, I guess in this case, Seth Rogen, because there's so much pressure when talking to your spouse. I guess that's the idea that they were going about. And maybe it's easier to tell a friend, but her friend happens to be male. So there's a lot of that.
It's still hard. That's still hard to take in though. So it's a great premise.
Yes. And I think it's wholesome in ways. It's such an easy watch. I mean, Megan and I, we binged it so quick. Like it was just one after the other. It made you laugh, and it has some heart behind it. And it's a little bit of a thinker, I was like, oh, they put some of these situations are kind of crazy, obviously for television. But then at the end of the day, when it kind of slows down and you're trying to see the message behind it, you're kind of like, okay, I see what you're saying. It's still, it's going to be hard to normalize that to anybody. Because, like, why are you spending so much time with this one person and not your family or your husband, so to speak? But, yeah, it proposes a lot of interesting questions. And we both thoroughly enjoyed it. And also, Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne were fantastic together. Their chemistry on screen. They showcased that with Neighbors, who the creator also directed, by the way.
Really?
So,
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, didn't know that either.
It's the director behind Neighbors 1 and 2. It was also the director behind Bros, which was that movie that came out last year, and it featured 2 actors from it in that movie as well. But yeah, it was also that, I should probably get his name instead of saying that director. Nicholas, what's his name? Nicholas, what's his name?
Nicholas, what's his name? I don't know who that
is. Nicholas Stoller is his name. And he also directed Forgetting Sarah Marshall as well.
Oh, great movie.
So, great movie. Yeah. And Neighbors, and now he was one of the creators for Friends from College, and he's now the creator of Platonic, which he directed. Out of the 10 episodes, he directed, I believe, 6 or 7 of them. So, his influence is definitely there. And I think this is some of his best work, because I really enjoyed this series and what they were doing. It's like a little less wacky, more serious in some ways, like more grounded, I should say. So yeah, really enjoyed that. And then we watched a movie. Well, before I get to that, we watched because it was Megan this week, so we're watching a lot of movies that she wants to watch, which is perfectly fine. One of which was Magic Mike's Last Dance.
How much did you love that?
You know what? For a movie that I you kind of get the idea of, you're like, all right, this is a movie that should be about one thing: male strippers.
Yeah.
I want to see men taking off their shirts and, having a good time. And that's kind of what the first movie was. I don't really remember the second movie that often, but I remember not liking it because it wasn't that. I was like, I feel like this is the movie you got to know your audience. You're doing one simple thing. You're appealing to more of a female crowd instead of a male crowd, and you're male strippers, and you got to be stripping, and you're having a good time. That's what this movie is. This was not that movie. And I was like, what? There was like so much drama in this. It was like Salma Hayek is this rich entrepreneur and trying to get back at her husband that she acquired this theater in London during this divorce, and was really she had like this great experience with Channing Tatum, and was like, I think you should come to London with me and be a director for this new show that I'm putting on in this London theater. And I said, all right, this is already weird, but let's go with it. And there's this whole movie was about this building up to this show. And so you had one good moment in the beginning of the movie where Channing Tatum is stripping or doing like this lap dance with Salma Hayek. And I was like, okay, this is what this is about. And then there was about, I don't know, an hour and 10 minutes of this drama with this theater. And then the last 30 minutes is back to
stripping,
what everyone came here for. And so I was like, I was already checked out in that hour and 10 minutes of kind of really poor filmmaking. That's just what it is. It's just poor filmmaking. The acting wasn't great. Nothing was really, the dialogue was odd. It just didn't do it for me. It's like, this movie isn't for me, and I'm not watching it for me. I'm watching it for Megan. But you have one job.
Keep her happy. Did Megan enjoy it? Is the question.
She enjoyed the movie.
Okay.
So, but also, it's not. It's hard to displease when you have Channing Tatum ripping off his shirt and doing sexy dancing. Also, a group of men also doing the same thing. So, I guess if that's what the movie gave you and only for 10 minutes, then that was good enough for her. But for me, it's like, you make it the full 90, man. That's all I'm saying.
Keep her happy the whole time.
The whole time. I'm here. Look, is it not my cup of tea? But that's the movie I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Not this drama in the middle. If anything, just go back and watch the first Magic Mike, because that's where all that was at. And then they had this weird small cameo with some of the other guys in the movie, and that was it. And I was like, come on, no, if this is Magic Mike's Last Stand, you bring it back home.
Yeah.
You bring him back to where, he's doing it. They did a lot wrong in that movie, but she enjoyed it, so be it.
So be it.
Wasn't for me. That's kind of the gist there. It wasn't for me in the beginning, but yeah, it felt like, trying to get something out of it. I got nothing. It's on Max if you want to watch it. And also on Max, we saw a movie called Reality.
Okay.
And it starred, Well, I forgot her name. She's in Euphoria. Sydney Sweeney. Is a woman called Reality Winner. When I had first read the description of this movie and saw the trailer, I thought it was a Reality Winner story. But her real name is Reality. Her last name is Winner. And I don't want to give too much away because, yes, it's based off a true story. And the script is the transcript of the recording of when the FBI came searching in her house. And there was a lot of points in the movie where they were referring back to that recording like they were going back to the recording. Sometimes they used the dialogue and the recording of the recording. Other times they used the actors. So I feel like this was more of a glorified reenactment, like a more polished reenactment than it was a movie.
But how was it? Did it play out?
So this director, she's what was the director? Tina Satter. That's I see here. She built suspense and tension so well that I don't know exactly what really this movie was about, nor did I know what was going on. Why we were in the view of reality. So like we were kind of in the dark as much as she was. Yeah, it looks like
This is her only feat. This is the only thing she's done.
Yeah.
This is her only credit.
So
wow.
She did a very good job. I was on the not really the edge of my seat, but I was engaged from start to finish. And the movie's only an hour and 25 minutes. So for an hour and 25 minutes, I was hooked from start to finish.
Okay.
And then after that, I was, once we find out what this movie was about, and it was toward the end, then I went online and did some research on it. And so if you want to have the same experience I have and kind of just be in the dark of not knowing what this is about, then I would go in there blind and kind of watch it and then do research afterward. And I feel like if you do the research first and then watch the movie, you're getting a much different experience. So the tension and the suspense might not play as well when you know the outcome of this particular situation. But that was one hell of a movie, especially building suspense and tension. And also it was well acted as well. And I think it's great that, technically she did write the movie, but a lot of the dialogue was apparently not stolen, but taken from the actual recording of this event. So very interesting.
Okay. You got me hooked.
Yeah. And that was it. Those are 3 things that we watched.
Okay.
And so now, Ernesto, let's dive in to our spoiler review of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. We'll start with you, sir.
This is your movie series, so I want you to go.
Oh,
First of all, did you rewatch all the other movies before seeing this one?
Surprisingly, did not have the time. Did not.
I did. I watched I tried to watch like a recap.
Yeah.
That didn't really help. Or I guess it was fine. I was just confused because you get the I guess the guy from his past who's a Gabriel. What was his name from the movie?
Yes, he was in the first Mission Impossible. Which, if I knew, because Rogue Nation and Fallout didn't rely too much on the previous films in order for you to get it. But Dead Reckoning Part 1 relied heavily on a lot of past people in this movie. So similar to you, I was a little
lost.
A little lost on a few things. The best I was able to do was that I did also watch a recap. So that was it helped me in some areas, oh, that's right, that did happen. But yeah, I was also lost in a few areas as well. So I would say that I really enjoyed this movie. It was a spectacle on the screen, like most Mission Impossible movies are. My biggest problem with it, though, is actually two big things. One, which we've talked about this many times before, it's the detriment of being a Part 1. There's not much of an ending to the story, which I felt like maybe it would have. I mean, it did say Part 1 in the title, so that's something expected. But much like Rogue Nation and Fallout, they had a beginning, middle, and end, and it was just another mission in the series. So I was kind of hoping that this was going to be the same thing with a little bit of a cliffhanger into part 2.
So
I
agree with you, but where I think this movie is a little bit better than most is that I feel like the ending is that he obtains the key. Like that's the whole move, the whole mission of this one was to obtain the key. And I guess at the end they did it. Now we don't have a full resolution of everything, but we do have a resolution of that this is done. Like this is done. Like this is over with. Like this part of the mission is done. Now it's what's next.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Whereas Fast and the Furious, we literally left off in the middle. We left off in the middle of the story. There was no, like, I felt like there was, at least in this movie, I still felt that there was somewhat of a conclusion.
Well, I mean, I guess the same goes for Spider-Verse as well. That also kind of left on a cliff. I think it was a better cliffhanger.
But what is the I kind of put Spider-Verse in the same vein as Fast and the Furious, because then what was the conclusion? What was the mission in that one?
I guess there wasn't. There wasn't. Yeah, right. You're right. There wasn't a conclusion.
Because now we're in the. It's more of like we're in the middle, you know.
Yeah, like this is by far, like, okay, I see what you're saying. Like Fast X Part 1, I guess we're gonna call it. It was, the mission was still going. There was no ongoing mission, and the same for, there wasn't an end to the story that we were at, and we were still. It was like we were at a stopping point for this movie because we couldn't make this a 4-hour cut. So
yes,
that's
exactly
what it sounds.
Yes,
like. Yeah. And the same thing with Spider-Verse. Yeah, it was literally a cliffhanger because we were leading up to realizing that he wasn't where he was supposed to be, without giving too many spoilers for Spider-Verse. But yeah.
But whereas Mission Impossible, the mission was get the key, and we ended. Yeah. He ended the movie with the key in his pocket, because that was the whole thing. Because now, I mean, we're jumping around the story, but Gabriel's gonna be after him now, because he has the key now.
He has the key, right? I did feel like that the story was a little bit harder to follow this time around. There was a lot that was happening. It wasn't as clear cut. A lot of things were being thrown around. Yeah. So I really wanted to. I was having a little bit difficulty keeping up with it.
Which part? Which part of it was it like?
I feel like.
Was it like the AI? Was it the AI stuff?
Well, yes. I mean, especially in the beginning, where because we were trying to. I wasn't convinced that Gabriel was alive. I thought it was more of a projection, AI. He was using this as a figment of Tom Cruise's imagination. It eventually, and I'm still not convinced either, but it does feel like it's like, no, he's actually alive. It looks like this is the real person. Yeah.
Because the entity has chosen him.
Right. And Gabriel's more than willing to what's it called? Go along with the entity.
Yeah, he's the main henchman.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, who's also the face of being the protagonist, or the antagonist, I guess I should say. True. And the other thing that I had a problem with this movie, and not really a problem, is just this movie is a detriment to its own franchise, where I've seen better. It's just I've seen better. Like, the stunts aren't as crazy as the other films. And like, I feel like at this point I'm kind of nitpicking with its franchise, right? With his own franchise. But I feel like that him jumping out of a plane and having this whole scene kind of play out in Fallout. This whole scene played out with him jumping out of a plane, fighting with other people, you going down the parachute. That was thrilling to watch, as well as the very well-timed 6 weeks recording of the helicopter battle that was happening within the mountains. That was incredible. Like, I was down in with all the crazy action. This one of the biggest things was like a car chase, which is fine. It was a really intricate car chase,
and it was kind of it was funny. Like, I felt like there was there was like a comical element to the, because you know he hops into that they hop into that little car, and then
Yes.
they're being chased by Paris, I guess is her name, Palm Clementif's character, who you don't know is Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. Very, like, it does not look like Mantis in this movie. Like, obviously,
No, she does not. Yeah, she did a really good job,
Yeah.
like getting herself out of that. But she kind of played. Do you remember Ruby Rose's character in
John Wick? Yes.
2?
The
It was very silent character. I'm just here for quote unquote the fight scenes and or like the muscle in this scenario. It wasn't until the end where she had some lines, but I don't know. I feel like she could have done a little bit more. I was a little bit disappointed with her role, especially what we see her do in Guardians.
Well, we've seen her range, and maybe it's just it feels like she was underutilized. Like they underutilized her. Like they could have given her more.
Yeah, and I guess they didn't. They just didn't do it. And now she's dead.
So
we're not going to see her. now we're going to see more of her either. So that was kind of disappointing in a way, because I feel like she was going to have a bigger role, but she was just there. She was just there for the fight scenes and just being like a face, like, oh God, damn Ethan Hunt.
We will fight. I chase you through the streets.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I just expect a little bit more from that. And so you had that car chase, and then like the biggest on the movie is what they were advertising was him jumping off the cliff from the motorcycle and then parachuting down, which wasn't as thrilling. I guess also because what was leading into it, it was like there wasn't like this big rescue mission. It was just him like, well, you missed the train.
Yeah. But then see, and so my thing with that is I think like it just seems like the whole movie it's like we're gonna make the next Mission Impossible movie. What's it gonna be about? Who the fuck cares? What the main thing of this movie is gonna be about is what do I feel like doing? I'm gonna take a motorcycle and I'm gonna drive it off a cliff and then I'm gonna parachute onto a train. So, but then they give us the beginning of it. Obviously, it's too dangerous for him to try to go into a train. But I felt like we got for a massive setup for a big stunt, we got like a really like cheap entry. We were in the train and he just comes crashing through. We just saw him jump off of a fucking cliff. Like, and we didn't see anything else. Like, you could have CGI'd some shit or something. You could have gave us something of him like on a green screen jumping on a fake train. Like that would have been fine. Like you could have given us that. Like for all that setup, we at least deserve to see that. And then the beginning, like the whole movie, like I remember thinking about it. It's like this whole movie is a setup for this because the poster. I walk outside, the IMAX poster is of him jumping off the cliff. The opening credits, there's a seat, literally the point where he jumps off, it like freeze frames. I'm like, why are they giving that away? And obviously it was in the trailer. And then there's like little points. There was like a couple of points in the movie where they like hint to it when Ving Rhames like packs his chute, and they linger on him grabbing the backpack. There was like a little linger there. I was like, they're really, really setting up this stunt. Which yes, it is some crazy shit that he did. Like it is like it's hard. Like there's nothing that can be said to how hard that actually was. But I felt like us as an audience, like if you're gonna give us that setup, we were owed just a little bit more. Like you could have given us a green screen of him jumping on a fake train or crashing in through the side of a fake train, and then we cut to the inside. But it just felt very like stage performance that we're in the train and all of a sudden he just comes crashing through like it's all good. You know what I mean?
You said it better than I could because I was trying to find words to describe how I felt about that scene. But you're right, it felt cheapened.
Yeah,
it felt like it was like
you said. Great as that stuff was,
yes,
we were cheated at the end.
Yes, absolutely, because of what you've shown us in the previous films.
Yes,
the previous films showed us like here's Tom Cruise on the side of a plane.
Literally,
literally did that, and he's like holding on for dear life as the plane is taking off, and then we see him kind of shimmy his way inside. It's like, And also, even leading up to that, I think that was the beginning of the movie. He's like booking it as he does in every movie. He's running like miles he's running so many miles in every movie. But yeah, I agree with you. Massive setup, little payout of like, I felt like we were owed a little bit more. That's kind of like, in a way, selfish to say. I was like, I know Tom Cruise, you jumped off a cliff, but we were owed a little bit more of how that scene kind of played out.
We just needed to see like that part. Now,
the rest of it.
Now, let me take a step back. The execution of what they showed us with that scene was incredible. Like the fact that they had to like create new cameras just so that they can get all everything that they wanted to get, and what they had to do and all the training he did. Nothing can be said for the physical achievement of what he did and the recording of it, because I thought the way they set up that whole shot execution, I thought it was really well done. But there's another half of that scene that we were owed at least something besides what, and I didn't feel, I guess I just wasn't satisfied with the way that part played out, especially for them to give us so much setup for this one scene.
Yeah, I mean that was the marketing of the movie. Was
exactly.
That he did this? That was the marketing. I don't remember the marketing of any other Mission Impossible movie. Well, actually, that's a lie. It's all about the stunts for this franchise. It's like, what crazy stunt is he going to do next? And I feel like, again, just the other movies did it better. I was more. It was a better setup and a better payout for what that scene was set up, and it was more of a spectacle than this one presented. Yeah. Especially when that was the entire marketing campaign of Tom Cruise jumped off a cliff.
The one thing I did like was I kind of liked the AI aspect, because like that's something that's so relevant to everything that's happening in our society now. You know, where that's the main. I mean, we were just talking about SAG-AFTRA and what their dangers of AI. Yep. So we're looking at a world where AI is way more advanced than what we're used to, like, you know, this secret spy world. So to me, that was the main thing that I really enjoyed. Just like when Gabriel's standing and he's at the party and he's like, everything's been played out by different probabilities. I mean, I use ChatGPT every week, you know, I use it. I build my workouts from it. So like I get it, for it to like predict all these probabilities, and then the way they kind of wove it into the plot, that part kind of worked for me. There were certain parts of the aspect, and to me, that was some of the strong points. But obviously, I mean, everything else was like very, I guess the best way to put it is vanilla. It was just kind of like, it was very surface level. And like, what was with the deal with the guy who hired him? He gave him this mission, and then he turned on him, but then he used him to like rehire her. And then did Gabriel kill the president? Is that who that guy was? Or was he just some kind of the defense leader, the guy who he cut his neck? Like, wasn't he like some kind of big government official?
Yeah, he was. Yes, but he wasn't the president, but he was a big government official. I will say this, as far as a positive thing about this movie, I really enjoyed the airport scene.
Oh yes,
the airport scene was brilliant. Yeah. Like that whole execution of like the introduction of Haley Atwell's character,
who was great. I think she was a positive addition to the franchise.
I'm 50-50 on her, and I'll explain about that a little bit later. But as far as the airport scene, I loved it. I was in it the whole time. I was like, this, like, especially in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is some, like, honestly, I was like, oh man, we're not starting with like the classic Mission Impossible mission, because we were in the submarine for the opening part of the movie. So I was like, okay, every movie starts with like this big, like, like Simon Pegg's like, Ethan, I don't know, I don't think you can do this, and he's like, don't worry, I got this. And then like that's what I was expecting as the opening of the movie, but we didn't really get that. And like they had these funny quips, and except we got this fairly serious submarine AI, which I was down for. I just wasn't expecting it. And then later on we get the funny quips, and then I think they did a really good job, like blending all of craziness together in that airport scene when it FBI trying to get to him. You have Ethan on his own mission, and then what really worked was when Simon Pegg was like, there's a bomb that's about to go off at this airport. I'm going to do it, but we're not going to tell Ethan because he's busy doing other things. And I think that really added the suspension and the tension that was in that scene, because you're like, there's so many things that could go wrong, and there's so many things that are happening, and they're finding a way to make it really interesting and really engaging. I was like, yes, this is Mission Impossible right here. And it had nothing to do with stunts. Like, to me, that was the best part of the movie, and it wasn't even the craziest part. Because later on, then even how clever she was of getting herself out of these situations, Haley Atwell was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was always not trusting Ethan. And I think what was great about her character is that, like, and again, I was 50-50 with it, because in my head, it's like, just trust him already. You keep getting out of a situation and then getting back into a situation in which he has to come and save you. And it was just like that cycle that I was getting kind of over with, especially with a 2-hour and 45-minute runtime.
Seriously.
But at the end of it, I kind of like that at the end she was like, Ethan told me I can trust you. When like Ethan's in the parachute and he's going down with the key, and he was like, he said that you would protect me, and that was the straw that she was like, okay, I think I can trust.
Yeah,
Ethan now.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Like, I think that the way they introduced her character is well. Now, how did you feel about them killing off his main boo, Ela Faust, played by Rebecca Ferguson?
Yeah,
because she's like a main character from like all the other previous films. Like, it wasn't like their love interest, everything.
I think she started in Ghost Protocol. So she was in Ghost Protocol. Then there was Rogue Nation and Fallout. So I think she was in all three. She was considered being part of the main team, like the other two.
Mm-hmm.
I think they cheapened on that death.
I felt the same.
I felt nothing. But also because the movie told me she was going to die.
And they gave us the fake out death in the beginning, like where they're going to kill her.
Yes.
Jeez.
I think they could have been a little bit smarter with that. Because basically you had Gabriel be like, all right, well, Ethan, you got to make a decision or else that one right there is going to die. And then she did. And it was like, okay, well, what he said was going to happen happened. You know, it's like, and like we trapped you in this very, like, which was a pretty intense action sequence of the really narrow hallway and him getting himself out of that situation. That was pretty cool. Yeah. But then it cuts to the less interesting fight of Gabriel and Rebecca Ferguson. What was her character name?
Faust.
Ela Faust. So Ela and Gabriel fighting, which was less interesting than Ethan in a small, skinny hallway with the other two goons.
Yeah.
And then like when she died, it's like, all right. It's like the action and the scene did not build up to her death appropriately.
Yeah, it's like, oh, go be with Grace now. Save her.
Yeah. I didn't really care for that. It left little room for surprises in a way, like this movie did. Like I wasn't surprised by much of anything that happened in here. And then you feel shortchanged a little when it came to like the big spectacle of the movie. And also we spent a lot of time in the train, which also didn't feel as exciting as the helicopter fight in the previous film.
And about the train, did you see there was some news about the Uncharted video game director calling out that train scene where he's hanging, that's like almost like a dead ripoff from Uncharted?
I see where he's coming from, like, especially the scene. So the whole train collapsing and everything, that can be original. That's fine. You know, a lot of people, you know, the trains and movies, that's been done for years. Where I think the scene in particular where he's referring to is when each cable car was dropping and they were kind of bouncing up into it before it kept falling. And I see where he's talking about. I see it.
But apparently there was a previous movie that they did a scene and it credits like another scene from an Uncharted game. Did you see what I'm?
Oh really? No, I did not. I did not see that part. I did see that the director Director 2 was kind of saying, hey, there's a lot of similarities to Uncharted 2, and I think Christopher McQuarrie has already stated, like, he made a response to that saying, I've never played or seen anything from the video game franchise, so I did not take any inspiration from that, as he claims.
Yeah, let's see. I found some screenshots. So Bruce Stratley, who I guess is the former Naughty Dog boss, points out the Dead Reckoning similarity to Uncharted 2. So this is the one that I think where they're hanging down. That the one me and you were talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty similar. Do you recognize this one?
The scene, yeah. I mean, this scene's very much to Mission Impossible. How like when this game was coming out, all the marketing was this scene to play out. Like this, I mean, it's in the poster. You see it right there in the poster, like him hanging off a train. That was the big stunt, the big cinematic piece of the game was him on a train and is derailing and is going off a cliff and everything like that. So like, yeah, I can see the similarities. But I mean, that game came out when 2012, 2018. No, not 2018, like 2008 maybe? 2010? I'm going to say 2010. That's my guess.
2009.
2009. Okay.
You're close.
So that was 14 years later. I don't know. It's maybe. A lot of time has passed on that. Maybe. Like I get it. I see it, but I give it a pass. Like
okay.
This film franchise has done a lot of other things. That's just one other crazy thing they can add to the bucket list, But yeah, I think this movie could have been better. That's kind of where I'm at on that. Like there was a lot of aspects I liked about this movie, but I've seen them do better in their other films.
And it's very clear that the box office reflects that because their budget was $291 million, and they're only at $264.8.
So yeah, and that's a worldwide budget, which it does seem like they can at least. It looks like to be breaking even now. $264 million, and it's only the opening weekend, so that's not bad. After a full week of the movie, they're able to make looks like at least breaking even.
That's true, but then following that is Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's the two biggest the biggest movie, arguably probably the biggest movies of the summer.
Yes. Yeah, there's at minimum this movie's opening at number 3.
Yeah.
Anybody who wanted to see Mission Impossible, they've either seen it or don't care to see it. I'll be very curious if, like, say, Sound of Freedom comes in at number 3 because of all the positivity that's been surrounding that movie, rather than Mission Impossible.
That would be
that would be crazy, yeah. But I mean, it opened to $56 million in the opening weekend?
Yeah.
That's not a great start. It's a solid start, but not great.
It's good for a Tom Cruise movie, but and especially with all the marketing that was behind this movie.
A lot of marketing behind this movie, and I think a lot of it was the reason why their budget was so large was because of the pandemic. A lot of these movies were suffering because of the pandemic, and Tom Cruise Dead Reckoning Part 1 was one of the few movies that were filming during the pandemic, and they were spending a lot of money for those procedures that had to be done on set.
Yeah.
So we want to credit Tom Cruise for trying to make it safe while also trying to make a movie, and we've seen many videos of him like yelling at people for not following the rules on that. Yeah. So that's where a lot of the high costs came in on that movie. So I think they were looking for a big return, especially since Top Gun Maverick was the movie of the year last year.
And this was not Top Gun Maverick.
This was not Top Gun Maverick at all. So I don't want to use the word disappointed, because I was not disappointed with this movie. I think it still offered. It was fair. It was a little long. It did offer a spectacle for the big screen, like as Tom Cruise typically does. And I love Christopher McQuarrie's writing and delivery when it comes to these movies. Like, he does a fantastic job with this franchise.
I agree.
But I say it again. I've seen them do better. And because of that, like with the stunts, with the script, I've seen them do better. And therefore, I think like they're their own worst enemy. Like they didn't want to up themselves as each movie has in the past. So
That's
now
fair.
I'm curious how they're planning to do part 2. Like obviously part 2 was still filming, obviously, because they got shut down during the writers and Screen Actors Guild strike. So with that, what big spectacle do you have planned for this movie and to potentially end this franchise? They did say that that part 2 does not necessarily mean the end of this franchise, which I kind of wish it did.
Or maybe it ends
He had a
this
good
chapter
run.
because I mean, you said he set up Elos' character when he came on. So what if this is the end of like his this is like a volume collection, ending with
Okay.
Dead Reckoning, and then after Dead Reckoning starts the next one.
That's a good point. Yeah, and maybe he could be peeling back from the franchise because at this point he was on the writing team for Ghost Nation, and then he directed. No, I'm sorry, he was on the writing team for Ghost Protocol, which was 4, and then he directed Rogue Nation, which was 5, Fallout 6, Dead Reckoning 1, 7, now Dead Reckoning 2 as well. So. Yeah, he's been in bed with this franchise, and I don't know. I feel like that maybe a lot of people. I don't know why this movie didn't make money. I think that's kind of where I'm at as well. Like the franchise is great. It's a big spectacle for the big screen. Maybe people were holding out. Maybe Barbenheimer was just too big, and people are like, I'm gonna go to the movies next week when it's Barbenheimer, not when it's Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So maybe that was part of it. But yeah, 56 million is not great. But obviously, it's doing pretty well overseas for it to already make $264 million.
Mm-hmm.
So with that high of a budget, it looks like it's going to make a small profit, but not a big one.
Yeah.
But I think it also goes to show, like, when the summer's over, I would like to kind of do like a breakdown of all of the summer movies and its box office returns, because I think we've discussed each week how a lot of these movies are making very small amounts.
Yeah, not much
of opening week. Not much of opening weekends. We're looking at 50, 60s when they should be at 90s to 100. So what is the reason why people are not going to the movie? Is it the movie itself? Maybe they're not buying into big blockbuster franchises as much as we used to. Maybe this is still a peel over for the pandemic. Or even look at right now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 had a great box office run, and now it's going to be on Disney Plus on August 12th. I'm sorry, August 2nd is going to be on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. That's only a 3-month time span between its release and its streaming release date. What's stopping? And then also The Flash is even shorter. You have The Flash, it's going to be available on video on demand right now. And the movie came out less than a month ago. Probably because it didn't do great. Probably because it didn't do great at the box office. And the numbers kept going down from there. But why, to some people, why am I going to go watch a movie in theater and spend all this money when a few weeks later it's going to be available at my home, one way, shape, or form, and I can just spend the money there?
Exactly.
Like, the window is too short. It's almost like if you didn't see it opening weekend, forget it. Just wait to watch it at home.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of these indies are getting pushed out, like these smaller ones, like you.
Yeah.
No Hard Feelings. We were talking before the show, like you wanted to go see it, but there's not gonna. It's already It's already not at your Regal that you go to anymore.
Yeah, it's out of the rotation, mainly because of Barbie and Oppenheimer. They want to push a lot of and also cashing in on Mission Impossible and some of the other big blockbusters as well. But yeah, it just it came and went. It was there for about a month or so. I mean, I understand why you want to push Barbenheimer, but at the same time, like. Leave room for variety. I guess Barbie checks the box of a comedy and a female lead to kick out Joyride and No Hard Feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting what this summer has been. It's been a very unconventional summer season. I will say that. Like the numbers don't really match up, and what people are going to see and what's actually getting a lot of money, more of a profit, is not the movies we expect. I mean, we talked about last week about Indiana Jones and how that movie didn't have a great box office return either, but also didn't have a great word of mouth as well. So
I don't know.
That means something.
I mean, it had the marketing. It was the end of a beloved movie franchise. like the
Yeah.
original trilogies and Harrison Ford coming back. But maybe people are getting franchise fatigue. Like if you're not, especially if you're not going to advance the story in any really interesting way.
Yeah, and with that, you actually make a really good point there, like franchise fatigue. And we were talking about Marvel fatigue, superhero fatigue. It could be just big franchises that more people are not interested in. And then what more people are interested in is going back to Barbenheimer, original stories.
Yeah.
That of a grand scale, like, original stories that are treated as blockbusters.
Yes.
As opposed to franchises treated as blockbusters. Like previous IPs was going to drive it. Now, technically, Barbie is an IP, but not a movie IP. So
I mean, besides like the little
Barbie
kid, it's got like kid movies and I'm sure all that, like little stuff. But as far as a major motion picture release, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, final thoughts, Ernesto. We'll start with you.
It was good. It was, to me, it was just it was a little long. It was longer than anything. I wanted to like it more, but I also didn't want it. It was just, damn, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it was just a lot of setup for this one main scene in the film. But what I did enjoy was the fact that the movie has a beginning, middle, and end, even though it is a part 1 and part 2. Like, to me, that's what will make me come back, because your part 1 was good, and it is its own complete story. Like, you could watch part 1 and be satisfied, and you don't necessarily, like, if you don't care to watch part 2, like, you're not feel like you're missing out. Like, you're like, oh, he obviously beats him, whatever, but like, you don't, maybe the movie wasn't interesting enough for you, but you don't feel like you have to see the second one, like part 2. Like, if you watch Fast X part 1, you have to see the next one, because you have no there's no resolution of any story. Like, literally nothing is wrapped up. Whereas this one, everybody was at everybody came to a stopping point. It was just really good writing. Really good writing as for a franchise part 1. So that's what that part, more than anything, I really enjoyed.
Okay, and you said you also enjoy the AI.
Yeah, and the AI, the whole aspect of the AI, because they were able to give us a faceless villain and not have to worry about what his emotional backstory was. Like, we could treat him as a one-note villain, and we're able to carry on and not question it anyway, because it was artificial intelligence. Like, very, very similar to how you feel about Terminators, just like a robot on a mission.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't really think of it that way, as far as like, yeah, we don't need to know your villain's backstory or motives. It's just like, I'm a robot and I want to stay alive, and I don't want anyone to find out. And it was kind of, and even in the scene where he was like, so you're the only person who knows where the location of the submarine is. He's like, yeah. And then he just shoots him, because the point is not for anyone else to gain power. The point is not to be found. Because if you find the submarine and you have the 2 points, the key, then you can shut him down, and that's what the threat is to the AI. He doesn't care who has the power. He doesn't want. I guess he doesn't want anyone to have the power. But if you have the key, then you have the power essentially. But yeah, you're right. You're right. It's very clear cut what his motives are. But in a way, I feel like it's a little bit complicated for me anyway, trying to keep up with the logistics of everything that's been going on in this movie. And like, I don't think the scene in that club was as engaging as I wanted to be either, when they were all kind of coming together. I just feel like it was just a lot of dialogue, and I was like, I don't know what we're talking about right now, but I know we're setting up for a big action scene. That's what I know for sure. But yeah, I think for my final thoughts, I think we're kind of on the same page. It's like, I wanted to care about more what was happening in the movie, but I just couldn't get behind it. To be more wowed with the spectacle of the stunts, but I wasn't. But I have been in previous movies. There was a lot that I did like about, Tom Cruise is still killing it. Like, the stunts are still a great thing to see. And I even loved how they built the tension around the airport scene. I love the airport scene. Like, that is classic Mission Impossible right there. Like, kind of firing on all cylinders. But there was a few things that kind of left out that made it like a really great Mission Impossible movie. It was, I guess in this case, it was a good Mission Impossible movie. Wasn't a great one. But you made a good point about, yeah, there was a beginning, middle, and end to a part one story. Like, I didn't really think of that at it when I walked out of the theater, but as we were talking about it, you made a lot of good points about that. Yeah, his mission was getting the key, and we got the mission. Now, the next part of the mission, the second half of the mission, it was almost like two parts, right? Get the key, find what the key leads to, which we didn't know that before. So now Ethan Hunt, now acquiring the keys, now at the very end of the movie knows the location. Actually, he knows what it unlocks. It unlocks a contraption in a submarine. That's what he knows. So now his next mission is to find out where that submarine is, and that's where he's going toward. So your point, yeah, it's an ending because, you know, he just got another piece of the puzzle. Whereas Fast X and Spider-Man, like you suggested, it was like we're at a break in the story, not really an ending of a mission. So, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's still better action than most movies I've seen, though.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Like, it's way better than Fast X. Like, you know what I mean? As far
Yeah,
as
oh
like
my God.
as far as like an agent action film, like this was way well put together. Like, I was way more engaged. Like, it wasn't campy at all. Like, there are some parts that were comical, but it was just like the writing is just really good on this.
Yeah, and you make a good point because Fast X has always been more campy.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing these over the top stunts, whereas Mission Impossible is like we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it for real.
None of this CGI
So it's kind of
shit.
it's almost treated with more respect because you're taking the time to actually do these stunts and do the work to make those scenes worth it. Whereas all those things that are happening at Fast X is behind a green screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was good. I'm really excited and curious how we're going to end this. And based off the writers and the actors strike, doesn't seem like we're going to get this movie next year.
We're going to get another another pandemic break in movie releases.
Yeah, I feel like they might be pushing this to either end of 2024, summer 2025. Because I think this was originally pitched for the summer of 24. I think it was pitched next year. I could be wrong. I'll do a quick search on that. But I'm fine taking a 2-year break on this again. Like, especially with everything that they're doing, let's give it a beat, you know? Yeah. Like, take the time to make it what you needed to make it instead of rushing a release date. Let's see, Dead Reckoning Part 2. Yeah, June 28th, 2024. So less than a year away.
Well, let's see what happens with the writer's strike.
Yep, indeed. But there you go. That's our spoiler review of Dead Reckoning, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Tom Cruise, still doing crazy shit. And I will continue to go to the theater to watch him do those crazy stunts. If he keeps doing it. His next movie said he wants to do in space. And he's going to work with SpaceX to actually film a movie up there. What?
That's going to be wild.
Seriously. So, anyway, that's our spoiler review on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Ernesto, I'm not sure if we decided yet, but tell our listeners what they can look forward to next week.
I'll just let you know that the next 2 weeks, it's going to be our Barbenheimer releases. So, depending on when we record these episodes and when we're able to release them, you can bet the next 2 episodes is either going to be Oppenheimer Barbie or Barbie and Oppenheimer. And we've got guests coming on for both of them. So the next 2 weeks are going to be really big. I'm really excited. Like, we got a lot going on. We're seeing Oppenheimer tomorrow in IMAX. So I'm ready.
Also, hold up a minute. Let's just put that out there. You said we are seeing this movie tomorrow in IMAX.
That's right.
Believe it or not, people who are listening to this podcast may not believe what I'm about to say right now. But I haven't seen a movie with Ernesto since 2019.
Yeah, together.
We have not been in the same movie theater and we started this podcast, and we went to go see. I don't know which one it was. I think it was Star Wars. Star Wars.
Bombshell.
Rise of Skywalker, or it was Bombshell.
It came out after. Yeah.
It came out. Yeah. Okay. So it was more of a early, like late 2019 release for Bombshell. We went to go see that in the theaters together, and then as we also went to go see Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker together as well. Those are like the last two, and then the pandemic happened, and then lives happened, and we always didn't have the same schedule. But we were doing this podcast since 2019.
Yeah. So
we have yet to see.
We're coming up in November. It'll be 4 years.
That's crazy.
That is kind of crazy to think about, actually.
Next week will be episode 180. Yep. That's also nuts to think about as well, that we've been doing 180 episodes of these. But yeah, I'm really excited for tomorrow. Like, we haven't seen a movie together, and it's gonna be 3 hours. So there's
lots of time.
We're gonna spend a lot of time together. Lots of time to just let's be quiet for 3 hours.
Let's not talk to each other for 3 hours.
Yeah, we do this once a week. We're gonna come together to be silent.
You know what's really gonna be hard is to not talk about it after the movie until we record.
Afterward.
Well, we'll probably talk about it we might talk a little bit after. Maybe like quick thoughts. We'll see.
Yeah, we got a little powwow. We can't just stay like, all right. See you next week on the show. See. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. When we watch Oppenheimer, and it's a Chris Nolan movie in the theater, man. It's gonna be exciting, and also it's Barbenheimer. It's the movie of the year now. It's the movie everyone's talking about.
Arguably the biggest release. These are gonna be the biggest releases of the summer. So we got a lot. We got a lot going on these next couple weeks,
and I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a great time. We want to thank each and every one of you for listening every week. If you want more from us, you can find us on our social media channels. On Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, on our Facebook and TikTok page at boxofficebingers, our Threads page at boxofficebingers, and our Twitter page at boxofficebinger without the S. So you can find us on all of the platforms. We continue all of the movie fun over there, so be sure to check those out and subscribe and follow and do all the things that you typically do on social media, because we're on it as well. Thank you everyone for listening to us each and every week. The next 2 weeks is Barbenheimer time, baby. So we're gearing up for that. We're having a good time. I feel like now the next 2 weeks are the time that, like, you know how we get excited for like every week for a movie? Is this a new movie we're gonna watch? We're gonna talk about it. The world is now on our level. When it comes to this.
Welcome to our world.
Welcome to our world. World. Come back next week for more movie fun, because you're not going to want to miss it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Santos. See ya.